Okay, you're recording. Please go ahead.
Great. Hey, everybody. This is the May 27th, 2025 meeting of the Feedback Subcommittee of the Charter Review Committee. And I guess make sure everybody can hear me and I can be heard. Bernie?
Yes, I'm here.
Ken?
Present.
And Athena, you're here as well to help us out. Thank you.
Hi.
Basically, the agenda was posted on the town website. Let me pull it up if we I can do that. Sorry for the delay. I was all set to get into this meeting, and then so these guys with heavy equipment showed up on the front lawn, and it was like, okay, you should go over there, and I gotta go. All right, so the agenda.
Yeah, you could say you're having a swale time.
What's that?
You can say you're having a swale time.
That's whale time, yeah. Okay, so the agenda is basically we have the minutes from the last meeting to approve on public comment, discuss any input from the full committee that we received, and then plan for collecting input from a variety of different sources, the public comment ideas from the prior and future charter review committee meetings. There was a suggestion that we should look at all the ideas submitted to the League of Women Voters, which are posted on our website, or whether we should just go with the report recommendations. We have the upcoming outreach sessions. We have the surveys that are going to be going out. And so all of those are sources of input that we can, let me see if I can share this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So so then these are all sort of sources of input that we will be then looking to organize for use by the full committee and by the public. And then future agenda planning, and then any other topics that haven't been anticipated, then we'll adjourn. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And a second. So moved by Bernie, seconded by Ken. Oh, who's taking minutes today? Do we remember?
That was Marcus.
Okay.
And if not Marcus, then
it's me. Okay. So I'll make a note of that. I'll be the minute taker. So any additions or discussion of the minutes? Great. Thank you, Ken, for taking them. All in favor, Bernie?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So the minutes are approved. Public comment. Do we have anybody from the public here, Athena?
No, I think it's just us. Nobody in the attendance.
So then let's move to any input that we heard from the full committee. What I recall is that we talked about, we sort of gave we heard the outreach subcommittee's report, and then we gave our update, and there was the one thing I remember that sort of is relevant for us that I'm thinking of at this point is, I believe it was Meg who was talking about how are we going to collect the input in the outreach sessions, that there's going to be breakout groups, and then there's going to report out, and then there will be general discussion. So in the general discussion, how do we want to capture that information? And I think that's sort of where the handoff from the outreach subcommittee to the feedback subcommittee happens. So I guess I would just say that I've been doing an interview project recently where I'm doing a lot of recording of interviews on the notes function on my iPhone, and then I can get a transcript out of that, which I can dump into Word, which I can then feed into Chat GPT Pro, which I've subscribed to. And you can get, the recording is good if one person's talking at a time, and then, which I think is the plan for the outreach general sessions. I think we could get a pretty good summary that we could then, either just capture it in a transcript or process for a summary. So, and then maybe, we could have people also write on flip charts if we can secure some flip charts, and maybe then give people some of those colored adhesive dots that they can vote on the ones that they think are most important. If maybe each person gets 5 dots or something like that. But that might be something that we could propose to the outreach folks in our next meeting to say, we'd be happy to help with that, or we should build that into the process. So that's the only thing I had as far as a reaction from the full committee. Were there, I don't know what other people think about that or any other topics that we talked about in the full committee.
I had, I do events and I do recording of events. And we're going to need a PA system. We're going to need something, a central microphone or 2 for those general comments, or some way to track all that, whether that's our facilitators at the table. I mean, I don't know how well, I've never heard of the transcript off your notes app. It sounds like a brilliant idea. I don't know if it's going to be able to, if it's going to be so loud in there that it'll be able to handle what people are saying, but we're just going to have some way of amplification of voices to capture that. I know that your interviews are probably one-on-one right now, so
Yes.
it's a completely different ball of wax.
I mean, it might be that we try that, but we also have note taking on flip charts for the general session, and we just keep those as a backup or as another alternate way of collecting that, and for allowing people to vote. But yeah, I think you're right. We should definitely suggest that there be a PA and mic. And I don't know, is that something that we can, if we're reserving a room at the Bang Center? I mean, 2 out of the 3 ones that are scheduled now are online, so we're really talking. I guess that's a little different. we'll want to think about how that works, how people would vote on things. I don't know if they would be able to.
Right, yeah. People aren't going to be able to. I don't know that there's on Zoom if there's a vote function or not. If you're familiar with this, maybe too familiar with Zoom. So I don't know if there's a way for people to vote, or if there is a way to count a show of hands.
Yeah, through the chat, people can vote through a chat, and that's that turns into a transcript, and then everybody's name comes up, so there's attribution for whatever that's worth. I don't know. I'm thinking the in-person part, no one's going to be able to be getting attribution to their comments. I don't. We should not promise that in the meeting, because people will just be dropping dots and stuff, and know who voted.
Yeah, well, the traditional low tech way with the chart back on the walls and people, somebody summarizing the discussion and people voting.
Yeah.
That may happen once if we can get a PA system and can't get recording. And again, I don't know that we need to have a really refined level of collecting this. I'm go back and forth in my head about how precise and how detailed do we want to be with the in recording the public comments. We didn't talk about the survey, which I think at least the tool that I've seen that Eric has carefully put together, it seems to be good to go. And I was under the impression that our town communications person is willing to send it out. So I think that's one of the things we need to ask of the outreach committee to launch that survey. That will be, all that will be machine readable data that we can
Mhm.
Mhm.
that we can sort using chat or Gemini or whichever tool we choose.
I'm also wondering that now that I'm thinking about this, with the number of online forums that we have, I don't know how important it is that we have voting in those. It's more a matter of getting all the ideas out that are
Mhm.
coming from the breakout rooms. And then
Sure.
I don't know how much it matters if, 5 people vote for one thing, or if we just have, a list of all the ideas that came through, and then we use our judgment to, and see what comes through in other formats as well. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that,
I
how
get,
important that is,
yeah, I didn't, and maybe I missed something. I didn't get the impression from what Meg had put together that there were going to be breakout groups on Zoom.
I think there was going to be. My understanding was that it was based on the in-person model, which was they'd have 5 or 6 tables and try to keep the number of people fairly low at each table. And so similarly, they would have breakout rooms, and then somebody would then report out from each table in the general session, and then there would be general discussion.
Okay, again, I'm showing my unfamiliarity with Zoom I mean, I use it, but I use it pretty simply. If those breakout discussions in the breakout rooms are also recorded.
I don't think so.
Okay, because if they are,
And
it's
Ken,
like
do you know?
I don't know. I've been in so many, but I don't recall recording being part of it. I mean, it could be true that you can record it, but you're going to have a hell of a file on your hands, but 7 breakout rooms or something and recording all those,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
I think the as in the online, I mean, as in the real life sessions, there would be the onus would be on the facilitator for each group, or the reporter out person, to summarize what came from that group, and then that would be picked up by that would be in the general session, which would be picked up on the transcript.
I just typed in it. Yes, you can record breakout rooms, but the recording has to be instigated by somebody in that breakout room.
Okay.
It won't do it by default, but all those breakout rooms, in theory, are going to have one of us running the discussion. So that would be an extra responsibility then for one of the committee members.
Sorry to interrupt, Andy. I think we might need to just touch base with our IT folks, because the way Zoom works for us is that if you have a town account, you can record to our cloud. And I'm not sure that if you're running one of these meetings from a town account that somebody else can start recording it or go to our cloud. We need to get into some of the details of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zoom says it's only possible to record in breakout rooms with computer recording. I'm not sure what they mean by computer
That was a
recording.
different answer than I saw.
It could be versus cloud recording.
Versus cloud, yeah.
I think when we get to that point, when we're ready to start setting these up, we should talk to somebody from IT who can work with us and make sure it works the way that you all want it to work.
Nonetheless, we'll get the recording. The person who's the recorder for each of the breakout groups will get their report recorded, because it'll be in the general Zoom meeting.
Yes. I would.
We could ask that person to do something the old-fashioned way and keep notes.
I would advocate for keeping it as simple as possible and not record 5 or 6 different breakout rooms, but just have the responsibility to be, get the ideas down in your small discussion and report them out. And we'll record that.
Yeah, and I think Ken's notion that would have one hell of a file to deal with is right on target.
But this is a topic for for discussing with the outreach group, but in a lot of ways, we're basically waiting for data to come in from the outreach efforts. So, but we, you know,
Mhm.
to the extent that we can suggest ways that would be helpful to them, great. Was there anything else from the full committee that affects us, do you think, at this point?
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, I didn't hear anything.
I mean, I guess I found it useful to walk through the sections like we did with the Collins Center. And I think it's sort of reinforced that there are going to be, you know, that we'll be looking at that we'll be looking to organize input, you know, both along the sort of axis of what article or articles is it relevant to, and then how easy or hard, sort of a continuum of how easy to hard would it be to make those changes, right? So there's the things that the council can make with just a vote of their own, either through rules or through a charter change. There's the things that might require a vote of the legislature, and some of those might be likely and some of those might be less likely. And then there's things that are going to require you know, a full charter commission, you know, a new charter commission or something to that level. So it sounded like that sort of organization of, you know, organize the ideas by article and then indicate, you know, how relevant they are to the charter and how easy they would be to implement would be useful way of categorizing whatever we're putting together. Does that sound like what you heard as well?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, knowing that there may be some suggestions that will cut across articles, where there may be some global suggestions like the meetings are keep the meetings short.
Yeah.
This kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that to my mind, that's the way to organize this, and the way that would I think will come up as sort of framing the final report is to go section by section through the charter, where changes are suggested, the level of difficulty, and then a concluding paragraph with all the really aspirational stuff that would require extensive legislation or a new commission.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus is just joining us now. Hi, Marcus, can you hear us?
Yeah, I am. Sorry. I've just been sitting here for a little bit trying to figure out how to get to talk, but you don't really want to listen to me anyway. So it's fine.
Au contraire, but nice to have you with us.
Yeah, sorry, I can't be on video. I'm taking my son to a baseball game.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for joining in. We were just sort of summarizing for the general idea that we that we talked about with the full committee last week. There were sort of two things. One is that, you know, when they have the forums, and along with other you know, opportunities for outreach, that we're here to catch whatever comes in on the forums or on the surveys or whatever.
Yeah, I was listening to that. Yeah, I think that's
so you heard that.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I am curious to hear whether we can do the breakout recordings, because that would certainly help keep things flowing during the meetings then. But I guess we'll just have to see what limitations we have. So
I mean, I'd love to go push Marcus a little bit. Not push Marcus, that's not what I mean, but I really like the idea, if we're going to be summarizing in small groups in person, and then that the report outs are what we record, then that's the same thing we should do for the Zoom meetings. So have unrecorded breakout and the summarizing, the reporting
Yeah.
back. I think that just removes a whole level of technological.
yeah.
It's also consistent.
Yeah.
Practice.
Yeah. So then, so we can sort of reiterate those idea that and the idea that of the organizing information section by section and then by level of difficulty, I guess, in terms of implementing.
Right.
And then so we can bring that back to the full committee, and I don't, it doesn't sound like it would generate a storm of objection. So
do we know if we're going to have someone from the Collins Center with us during those sessions or not? I mean, I'm just, to help us understand whether that's something is going to require a full committee again, or if it's an easy pass, or if it has to go through the state or whatever.
I actually think we might just collect the information, whatever comes in, and then we could bring
and then do it afterwards. Yeah, not live. Okay.
Right. Yeah, that would be the best use of the Collins Center time, is if we gave them a comprehensive list and asked their thoughts on how to categorize it.
Yeah, I agree.
And we may want to have a more refined list we send off to KP Law and get KP Law's opinion. But knowing that the folks in the Collins Center, Anthony's a lawyer, and that we have lawyers at KP Law, it's like Lyndon Johnson said, any town that can't afford one lawyer can certainly support two. So we can get that. We can get that going and run up our costs everywhere. But one of the remarks that was made by the Collins Center staff person about spring elections for cities didn't sit well with me. But I want to be able to. I want to be able to rely on our city council, our city attorney, to be the last word in how recommendations get categorized. Simply because push comes to shove, it's KP Law that's going to go to court. And KP Law has done lots of work, as has the Collins Center. Has done lots of work with the legislature. They've written legislation. They know how to do that stuff. But I think I'd want to be able to say that the final product, draft product, gets reviewed by KP Law, because, like I said, we end up in court, or we end up in a disagreement. They're the ones that are going to represent us.
Well, yeah, and we may have got something wrong, right? I mean, we say it's state, but actually it's not. It's something simple. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think when we do that, we need to be clear that, they're not direct. Anyway, all that sort of stuff is more for review and things, because otherwise, they may get.
The committee will come up with what it believes are its priorities, and
right.
We just want to make sure that we're technically correct in in suggesting something. If we say this can be done by vote of the council, we want to make sure we're technically correct. Yes, it can be done by vote of the council.
Right.
That level of review.
So we'll bring that to the group as well, to say that we believe that we appreciate the help from the Collins Center and our work in sorting these into the categories that will guide, will hopefully inform the council on, what's the easy lifts and what's the harder lifts. But, we may need, it's likely that we will need a final review by KP Law to make sure that we're putting them in the right buckets for that kind of guidance.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one area, there's a number of, there's a couple of things on the agenda here. So, but then a number of these are sort of future focused things, like how are we going to collect ideas from the outreach sessions? How are we going to collect the ideas from the surveys? And how are we going to organize feedback for the committee? But the one thing that we have now that we should probably figure out how to, there's two things, but the one thing that we talked about last time was that people have been giving us ideas in public comment as we've, since we started. And so presumably those are in the minutes, or they're in the transcripts, because of all of our meetings have been recorded. So one project would be to go through, the public comment sections of each meeting and pull out any ideas that have been, harvest the ideas from the public comment sections. So I don't think it would be a terribly heavy lift, but it might take a little bit of time to go through all the to find the public comment sections of each meeting and to see what was suggested.
Mhm.
So is there anybody who would want to take that on?
I just want to say that when I use ChatGPT to summarize the minutes of the meeting where the League of Women Voters were, ChatGPT did not register them. Did not register what they were saying, which doesn't make any sense to me because they should have been recorded as part of the transcript. I made notes myself, and then of course, they also were presenting things that we knew already, that we were told already that are much more whatever order
Right.
was in those documents that were submitted to us.
Right.
So I just want to make you aware of that. It could have been my problem, my fault or something, but it was disturbing.
Yeah, this one I'm not. I mean, yeah, I agree that if somebody's talking and there's a transcript, it should pick up, what they were talking about. But in that case, I think you're right that we have the report, so we have their recommendations already, and that they were just sort of reiterating that. But for this project, I think it's basically a matter of
I'll
the
go
public
back.
comment and saying, okay, somebody suggested this,
Yeah, I'll go back through the public comments at the start of each meeting. I'll take that on.
Okay.
And then try to do again with you, Andy, what you and Meg did, which is a short summary sentence.
Yeah.
Of what the comment was about, because we have a pretty lengthy list and we can add to that, add suggestions to that, and that will become what we work with. The league's presentation, I felt badly for the league because it was so disjointed given all the technology challenges.
Yeah.
But we also know what the league had to say, what their consensus was. So we didn't lose that information.
I'm just curious, Ken, how did the transcript look during their comment from Zoom?
In the moment, I didn't, because I had taken notes on what they were saying, just to back up the AI. I didn't look at the transcripts. I'm sorry. It did mention that they did a presentation, but it did not give any attribution. It just was almost a single line saying League of Women Voters presented, and no detail.
I just wonder if, because of the technology things, the input wasn't good either. I'm just trying to think of, ways to recognize when we might have those sort of situations,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in that case we have various ways of summarizing what they've told us. So we have
right, absolutely. No, I'm just thinking if we get into that situation, it's like a signal, right? We need to take notes on this. It's not going to come out in the transcript or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we always had the low tech paper and pencil backup.
Yeah, and we have the recording, so you can always play back.
Yeah, right, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So thank you, Bernie. That's appreciate you going through the public comments to date, and I think it'll be interesting to see if there are ones that have already shown up in how many of them are new versus how many are have come through in other means as well. But it'll be good to add them to the master list. So then there was a suggestion about that we have the League of Women Voters report, and we have the report recommendations in our list. They're part of the list of ideas that have come in from various sources. Somebody from the league suggested that they had also had a final question about, just give us, your idea or give us your final thoughts or something. And that entire list of 198 cells is on our website as suggestions that came in from, as part of the league report. So it was an appendix that is on our website. I took a quick look at it, and a lot of them are basically just sort of opinions about, whether the new form of government or the older form of government was superior. But and a lot of it was collated, by the league and went into the recommendation. Anything that anything that wasn't just sort of opinions about town meeting good or bad, or council good or bad, may have been picked up by the recommendations. But I don't see anything wrong with scanning through the list and seeing if there are any specific ideas that we don't have, or that we should put on our list.
Well, the league has a fairly rigorous consensus process, and so that resulted in the final report. There's like 4 or 5 interim reports on the league website, and I just think that we should honor the league's consensus process and use the report rather than all the stuff that went into it. That's my feeling. I mean, I don't have any reason to accept or reject any of it, or to question the league's consensus process. But as an organization, they gave us a document, and I think that's what we should use.
I agree with Bernie.
What's that?
I agree with Bernie. Just the report.
So, I mean, no other ideas are going to have to go through a consensus process. It will, if we get them from an individual, we will put them on the list, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind taking one more pass through and seeing if there's anything that we haven't heard elsewhere, just to make sure that we're taking advantage of whatever source. But on the other hand, if somebody feels strongly, they could also reach out through our process or come to one of our feedback sessions. I don't know quite.
Yeah. And in fact, that's happened with one league member.
Yeah.
So we have the report. If there's a citizen or citizens out there who are league members who feel the report's recommendations lacking in one way or another, or has something they want to add to it, they're welcome to report in to us. But I think we should, if we're going to privilege anything from the league, we should privilege what the league's consensus process produced.
And I guess that's kind of a little bit of the basis of mine, not particularly about the league, but just the previous discussion we had in the full committee about privileging or giving access or special sort of consideration for advocacy groups or special interest groups.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a great job of presenting it to us in written form and verbal form. I trust their process to have gotten to that report. It's not that we missed, there's no mistrust. It's more like just honor that process that they went through.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that we need to take a vote. I think we've got two members who are saying the same thing, and I think
I'll agree with them too. So there you go. That's 3.
Okay.
So
It sounds like
I'll put my finger up and see which way the wind is blowing, and we'll go with that. But the general
okay.
The general sense of the meeting is that we have their recommendations, and those are part of our list of suggestions, and that anybody who felt like they weren't heard in that process is free to be heard through our process. So then, other than that, I mean, we talked about collecting ideas from the outreach sessions. I think my sense is that we can do it similar, we'll take we'll record the feedback in the general sessions, and we will be looking for facilitators or reporters to reflect what happened in the breakout groups into the general session. So that will be, the way we'll pick up the ideas that are coming out of those sessions. The surveys, I think we're just waiting I think we just want to know when they're going to go out and how we're going to get the information that comes in. So once the surveys go out, and we start getting information in, we'll just need to figure out a process for, periodically downloading it and knowing when we've harvested enough to add to our list and to start categorizing it.
Well, the surveys that we're going to send out to counselors, electeds, and staff should have a drop dead date on it, so that we know when we're getting that information back. And that I'm anticipating that's going to be the most valuable piece of information we've gotten, certainly to date. So I'd like to get those out, and I'd like to ask people to have them returned by a date certain. And the surveys for the general public, I mean, those will roll in over time. We'll have to figure out, how we harvest them and add them to the mix.
Yeah.
And they'll have to have a deadline date at some point so we can get to writing the report.
Yeah.
Just
I also think, yes, but I also think that we should make sure that we have the public survey live when we have the outreach session, so we can refer people to that, so they can put information into that. We can drive them to the survey, and they can tell their friends to go to the survey. It'd be one way of marketing the survey.
Mm-hmm.
So we should probably ask the outreach to have the public survey ready for, and live for the first feedback session.
And just and make it clear. I mean, if I were that person joining the session and going, oh, I'm here giving my opinion, but they wanted me to fill out a survey too, just make it very clear. It's like, this is another method which you can use to do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of something afterward, or if you want to elaborate on an idea, or your idea didn't fully get fleshed out in the session, or you have friends that are talking to you, all that. Yeah. But that it's not, it doesn't mean that their input in the session is going to be discounted. It's or that they have to duplicate it. Yeah.
When we, and this is more of a technical question, I guess. When people fill out the surveys, is there going to be for the general public? Is there going to be a mechanism for saying, you've already responded, thank you, so we don't get individuals spamming us,
Stuffing the ballot box?
I doubt.
or having a bot fill out 7 million surveys, sending them in.
You can have it collect the IP address, I believe, in an online survey.
Okay.
Yeah, as opposed to an email address, because I've got 5 email addresses.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, you can have multiple IP addresses too.
Yeah, that's true, but that's a lot.
One from each library plus your own. Sorry, I didn't say that.
I mean, it might. This is why I don't think quantitative is going to be the way we go. It's going to, if we hear 5 different,
It isn't. Yeah, I'm not thinking that we're going to have really high quality quantitative data that we're going to be analyzing. But what I'm trying to look at is are there ways of reducing the potential nuisance value? I've got to close the door here.
I mean, that may be a question for Erica, since she is using the technology that she uses for her work. She may have an answer for that.
Yeah. It's just, you know, somebody who is either malicious or playful, you know, want to protect against that.
Yeah, at the same time, I mean, we'll recognize it, I guess.
Right. We'll just have to screen it, screen it
Yeah.
out. You know, whatever. Ridiculous. So then we've sort of gone through a lot of these bullets. The planning for organizing all feedback for use by the full committee and the public. I think at this point, we're waiting to see what that feedback looks like, but we've talked about sort of the, organizing by article and organizing by degree of difficulty. And, I don't know if there's much more we need to say at this point, but I'm open to anything you want to say.
I mean, I don't have any other suggestions. That seems to make sense to me. I mean, I know looking through the other final reports from the other charter review committees from the other towns like Cambridge and so forth. I don't recall how they categorize them. I think I read them very early in my experience with this committee. I read them as these all apply. But there probably was some sort of sifting that was happening. And I would want that sifting to happen as well for us.
Interesting.
And can we, I think we're allowed to make mistakes with this. And maybe if we put something in the charter review category that doesn't belong there, that the council will figure that out. So I'm not suggesting being sloppy about it, but I don't think we should burn a lot of calories.
Right. Well, we have the Collins Center who's going to be looking over our shoulder. We have counsel, our attorney, our town attorney, who will do a review. And, these are all any draft documents, public documents, so people will look at it and we'll get feedback that way as well.
We're also going to get feedback from people in town too.
Yeah.
I got to go back through and reread some of those.
Yeah, I think that would be a good, I need to do that too, I think, because it happened very early and do we know where those are? Are they in, this might be a question for Athena, but were they in, the folder for a particular meeting, or is there some folder that has other reports from other charter review committees?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank right now as to where I found them.
Athena, I see you turned your mic on.
You were asking if there's a place on the website where reports from other charter review committees are housed?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
Dan had actually collected a bunch and brought them in, and I don't know what happened to them.
I think there were some in like the first or second meeting packet because he had asked for those to be added.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's
But we haven't created a place. The committee hasn't asked to create a place where, reference documents or anything like that are put on their page, on your page.
Okay.
And
Or if it makes sense to do something.
I think you also, Athena, I think you also referenced in the Berkshires, Pittsfield, as having a report.
Oh, yeah, there was a news.
Yeah.
At least something that made it's something that made the Berkshire Eagle.
Yeah.
And then
And they had one recommendation, basically, right?
Yeah, I'll try. I'll try and track that down because
I mean, I think Dan basically Googled Charter Review Committee and pulled up some reports, but
yeah, I did too. I've got a few references squirreled away in pockets.
so it might be worth if people find any sorting or, you know, information sorting strategies in any of those reports, just bring them to the next meeting and we can talk about them.
Mhm.
Sure. I also think it's fair to ask the Collins Center what they've
Yes.
seen.
Anything else on organizing feedback for use by the full committee at this point?
Mm-mm.
Hearing none. Future agenda planning, is there?
Sorry, maybe this is a question, actually, an answer to the previous question. I don't know why I thought for some reason we were going to talk about whether any and all comments will be reproduced as an appendix in the final report.
Hmm.
Because I do know that those were done several times. It's, you know, it's a hell of a scroll. But maybe we're not there yet. Talk about that.
Yeah.
But it was certainly something that people made choices about. Some people did that and some people did not do that.
Mhm. I think we're going to need some archives somewhere on the town's website. There should be an archive, and whether everybody's comments go get archived, people can go back and look at them, or they get appended to our final report. We can discuss that at another time, but I would like to be able to have a central place to collect all this stuff. So when in a decade, when the next committee comes back and puzzles over it, they'll have some place to go to increase their confusion.
I would err on the side of transparency, and whatever comes in, as long as it's not, you know, spam or, you know, obscene or something. I think we should just have the, you know, all the comments and so that somebody could look at and know that we collected it and their comment made the, you know, made the big bin. So, but whether it becomes part of the report or whether it's, you know, a link to here's the separate list of everything that came in, you know, I think we can talk about that with the full committee maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for the future agenda is going to be a rinse and repeat of a couple of the bullet points here as we get more as we hear more from the outreach committee about their how they intend to record, or how we'd like them to intend to record stuff. So, you know, we're gonna talk some more about all this stuff, I think, in terms of, and then we're gonna future agendas are gonna be, I think we'll be continually talking about how we sort this stuff or where it best belongs.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think we pretty much agreed we're going to use the sections of the charter as an organizing tool. So, you know, where things best belong when it's not obvious which section they go to, or where they overlap sections of the charter. So those are going to be ongoing. There'll be ongoing discussions as we work through this stuff.
Yep. Anything else that we want to have before we go into our next whole group meeting?
Let's see. The next whole group meeting is when?
I think it's a week from Thursday.
A week from Thursday.
July,
Okay.
June 5th. June 5th.
June. Okay, good. Because I'm I actually have a social activity next Thursday.
Oh, is it Tuesday?
So I wouldn't be in attendance. But
And Andy, when are you planning your next meeting of this group?
Oh yeah, we were looking at trying to have the 4:30 slot on Thursdays in general. If that, you know, to the extent that that works. But I think, Marcus, was that problematic for you, or is that, are Thursdays workable for all of you?
Yeah, they yes, especially early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, next Thursday the 12th would, is open for me. I don't know
Yeah.
about the rest of you.
It's good for me.
So the council's community resources committee, I think I mentioned this in an email, the community resources committee, the other CRC, the OG CRC, they meet at 4:30 on Thursdays. So they alternate. So that's going to be a little bit tricky for me to do 2 meetings at the same time. And by
Should
tricky, I
we-
mean not possible. So you could alternate with them and meet immediately before the full committee on the 5th. Or you could.
I'd
meet-
rather have a meeting under our belt with the full committee so we have something to talk about. Could we do Wednesday? Does that work for people, or
Wednesday the
11th?
11th.
that's fine by me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine by me.
It works for me as well.
And you want to do 4:30?
Yeah, if
Yes,
possible.
please.
Okay.
Or Wednesday?
I could even meet earlier, but I'm
Unfortunately, I have a-
unemployed, so
I was going to say I have a job, so
yeah.
You employed people. Do we want to just try for every other Wednesday then? Is that better? Athena?
yeah, why not? Yeah, at least for now it works.
That's fine with me. As far as I'm concerned, but we can take it week by week. You don't have to work up a whole schedules, because I think as your work comes in from the outreach events, you might want to meet more or less frequently.
Yeah,
depending
we
on
might
how much
not
work
need
you
to
have
meet every 2
do.
weeks. We'll see. But
Right.
okay. So why don't we say at least the next one will be the 11th at 4:30, if that works.
That sounds good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Perfect.
Anything else? Or if not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Nothing else. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, Ken,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
and I'm yes. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Super.
Hey,
We'll see
everybody.
you at the
Bye.
next full meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Athena.
Yeah.